Hi, and thanks so much for joining me for my luxury beauty favorites of 2020. I've enjoyed everyday Vlogmas because it's given me a chance to look back at all of the products I've purchased this year, kind of review them, try them again, because sometimes it's the last months of the year that catch the most attention for me because they're the most recent purchases. But this time I was really able to try everything out once again to land on my favorites. So let's go ahead and just get started. The first item is a primer, but it's not a traditional primer. It is the Sisley Blur Expert Powder. And I've used this as a finishing powder, but I find that it does such an amazing job as a primer. It blurs, it perfects before I even go in with foundation. And for some people, I think you might really enjoy this in lieu of a foundation. So I did film a get ready with me, so you'll get to see this directly on the skin and see what I'm talking about. What I love the most about this is that I use less foundation when I use this first, just because of the perfecting it does for me as a first step. I really appreciate that about this product. Then when it comes to foundation, I did show you my top 5, but I couldn't decide on one because I think I have foundations for different purposes. One is like an everyday foundation, one that looks really great in person. I think one that looks like it's undetectable as a foundation, while I have another one that is for more perfecting purposes. So I use the more perfecting one today because when I want a really flawless look, that's the one I will pull for. So for a daily foundation that I think does a really great job of just making my skin look brighter, healthier, like I've gotten enough rest, this is beautiful and never looks like I'm wearing makeup. It is the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. This one just melds into the skin and I can never use too much of it. It's very buildable, but it still never really shows that I'm wearing foundation. So this is a beautiful formula, but this shade is really special as well in terms of that brightening effect on my skin. And then for when I want my skin to look really perfected, I will go in with this Clé de Peau foundation. It is the Radiant Fluid Matte. I have mine in 030, and I love it because you just need the tiniest bit, and it goes so far to the degree that I don't need concealer. Unless, of course, I want it totally flawless. I probably actually wouldn't use a concealer with this if it was a special occasion, like an in-person kind of thing. I think the camera really picks up any kinds of imperfections or flaws, which is why I will wear a concealer with this, but it is thin enough with enough coverage that you really do get that perfected look of skin. And I think the fact that you don't have to put on a lot to get some pretty good coverage is why this is such a special one. It does say Radiant Fluid Matte. So this is especially great for someone like me with more oily skin right here in the center, and I really just applied it here. I didn't even apply it on the sides here because this area can sometimes break that makeup up and it's a problem throughout the day, but this doesn't do that. It looks beautiful for several hours. I did a wear test with this, and I think this is a perfect shade for the center of my face. Moving on to skin tints, I love this as a fix-it, but I also do really enjoy it as a skin tint. So this is the Chanel Water Fresh Tint. My discoloration has improved so much that I can actually wear this and it just blurs imperfections. So it looks like skin, but just perfected. So there's not really an amount of coverage here. It is the most blurring, perfecting kind of product without adding coverage, if that makes sense. So I really like this. And again, for that fix it, I do still need to demo that for you, how I put this on top of makeup to kind of repair things throughout the day, especially in warmer weather. Then for under eye concealers, even if you've been here once or even twice, you probably already know I've been using these nonstop. The Sisley Eye Concealer in number 4, as well as La Prairie under eye concealer, also in 4. I said it before, you do not need both, but I do use them both and I will repurchase both. But if you were going to pick one, I would go with the Sisley just because I think there's heavier duty coverage here. It's not as fluid as this. This is more fluid. And the shade match might be an issue too because I have mine in 4 and it's actually quite light. so you might have more luck with the Sisley. These both have the unique property in that they do not require powdering. In fact, they look better without powder. They look beautiful all day long. It never looks like I'm wearing makeup. I think that's a really tricky area to find a concealer that works really well. So those two have been game changers for me, and I'm so impressed with both of them. Then for the face, I've tried many lovely concealers this year, but I still do keep going back to this one. It is the Clé de Peau concealer. I have Mocha, Almond, and Honey, but I used Mocha the most because it has more of that peachy tone in it. I'll pull for Honey if my foundation's warmer, but even though Mocha's a little bit deeper, it still works because it has a little bit of that color correcting aspect to it. I also know they released more shades this year, which is great because that gives other people the opportunity to try that. What I love about that concealer is that it looks great all day long. Sometimes with other concealers, there's a bit of puckering, there's a little bit of a raised texture as it interacts with oils on my face. I never get that from the Clé de Peau. It looks as beautiful at the beginning of the day as the end. I also can apply that over powder, which is what I did today. I just needed a little touch up here, so I did apply it over powder and it wasn't a problem. It also does have SPF 25, so it does provide a little bit more protection for those darker areas that I try and keep out of the sun anyway. So that's another added benefit. Then for powders, I think powders can be some of the most amazing things out there. You've seen me layer several powders at a time. I think that's what I can do to help color correct and help brighten my skin more than even cream products. With liquid and cream products, I notice the more I add, the more texture is evident. However, with powders, if I have the right combination, I don't get that. I can go in and color correct, I can blur, all kinds of amazing things with powders. But the trick is finding the right ones. So one of the issues with powder is that sometimes with discoloration, I notice that the dark spots actually get worse after I apply powder. I know a few of you have chimed in and said that you experience the same thing. So this is one powder that does a great job of not emphasizing those dark spots once I've concealed and then go into powder. And it is the Clé de Peau Translucent Loose Powder. It looks like it's too pink, it looks like it's too light, but it is truly translucent on me, and it does a really great job of blurring pores as well. So when I do the demo of the try-on, you'll see the difference that it makes, and it's just a pretty powder. This is the one that I bought as a refill because I wasn't sure about it, but now I would recommend purchasing the full size that has the puff in it because it's worth it. That's one of the ones that's worth it. So as soon as I'm done with this, I will purchase the full size with the whole container and everything. Such a pretty one, so finely milled. It doesn't look like you're wearing powder on your face, but it does a wonderful job of setting and just really perfecting the skin. Now for a finishing powder, I know we've been testing some out, but I still keep going back to this powder, the Chantecaille Hummingbird powder that we were hoping will come back in 2021. But I love the shade of this. It's just a nice brightening shade for me. You'll see again, I know I keep talking about it, but just tune into the Get Ready With Me, which is going up tomorrow, because you'll see on top of even the Clé de Peau powder, how this adds a little bit more brightness and life to my skin. I love the finish of it. It improves the appearance of texture on my skin as well as also just livens up my face. I use this every single day. And this is one powder that I think looks better actually the longer I wear it. As it starts to interact with everything, it really does look more skin-like throughout the day. Then for pressed powder, sometimes I like to add a little bit of color and just brighten again without doing these other steps, although I still will go in with Hummingbird after this. I did choose the Gucci powder in number 5, and I don't know why this is still a little bit difficult to get a hold of, but it is a lovely, lovely powder if you want a little bit of color. It's more of like a satiny finish on my skin. It's really pretty. Now for bronzer, I did go this time with Sisley. And the reason I chose this one is because I'm wearing it now, but you can see how warm it is, and that can be difficult sometimes to find. I find a lot of red toned bronzers, I find a lot of cool toned bronzers, but finding something warm without going to orange is difficult. So this one is a really beautiful shade, and it has a really pretty sheen on it as well, which I really like for the wintertime especially, because it my skin is on the drier side, especially on the exterior, but I'm usually more oily in the center. But if I get dry, it's usually on the exterior. So this looks really pretty on the skin. Then for blush, we've got the Chantecaille Manta Ray, which I don't think is a surprise because I've been going on and on about this blush ever since I got it. And I have it on today, and I was just reminded as I was applying it how beautiful it looks because it has a glow about it that doesn't emphasize any texture on the skin. So this is such a unique formula compared to other blushes I've used, and it melds with the skin. So I'm noticing the quality that I like in a lot of these products is that they meld with the skin and never look like they're sitting on top of the skin. And this is just such a pretty shade. It is the coral shade, but it has a lot of pink in it compared to my skin tone. Plus I love this to color correct a little bit in the front as well. Then for highlighter, I went with the other one. So not necessarily the blush. It's a little bit pink for me, but I love the highlighter. It's a pretty champagne shade. It does look like it was applied as a liquid highlighter. It's so pretty on. I just love the way this looks. So it's a highlighter, but you don't see any individual particles in there. So it is, again, more of a glow. Just talking about brows really quickly, I'm gonna hold these three up because there's nothing new here. I always look at brow products like I should probably try some, but I'm just so pleased with these that I feel like, I don't know, let me know if there are some brow products I need to be trying. The Wonder Brow is my only non-luxury product here, although it's still not inexpensive, but it really sets that shape for me. The DIOR pencil is a beautiful match. It's nice and cool. It fills in any sparse areas. So if I have 1 minute, I'll use this. If I have 2 minutes, I'll use these two. If I have 5 minutes, then I'll throw this in, the DIOR Show Pump and Brow, to kind of fluff up my eyebrows and make them look a little bit three-dimensional. Moving on to eyeshadows, I do have two matte palettes that are very nice that I've relied on quite a bit this year to kind of anchor things, especially with so many shimmery palettes. So I've got the Sophisticate by Charlotte Tilbury as well as 308 by Chanel. So if you look at them, they kind of look similar, but they're not exactly the same. So depending on the depth of any of these shades, that's what I'll pull for, but these have come in very handy. Then for shimmery palettes, the DIOR palettes, I've got three here. So New Dress, Mitza, and Jungle. And I used all three of these today, either one or two colors from these palettes. So I just think these are so easy to work with. My first recollection of shimmery colors was a long time ago, like in the 90s, and I don't think that they formulated them the same way they do today. So they are very creamy, as they say. What I've learned about shimmery shades as I've used these is that they are very forgiving and that they don't show imperfections in application. I really like that about that. I think mattes can be a little bit trickier, but these shimmery colors are so pretty and I've so enjoyed using these palettes. I've done swatches of all 6 that I have if you want to check it out, and I've ranked them as well. But I think really at least the ones I've tried, whatever color you like is going to be really pretty. Then for one and dones, I couldn't leave these out. I love one and dones because I think on the daily, realistically, that's what I use the most. And I think that these are so beautiful. They are the Luminescent Eye Shades by Chantecaille. This is, again, one of those things where pick a shade, whatever one you like, and it's going to look beautiful. It's got so much dimension to it, and that's why you only need the one shade. You can layer them if you like, which I've done before, but if you just pick one, it just catches the light so beautifully. So you just apply it on top, maybe a little underneath, some eyeliner or mascara, and you're done. Now for a few key products that really highlight the eyes. I still love this Eye Defining Pen by Tom Ford. It is the best liquid liner that I've tried. They only have it in black. I wish they had it in other shades, but it is this applicator that really does all of the work. It's so pretty, and plus the formula is really nice as well. No flaking. It's a very continuous line. It's not a new thing, so you've probably heard about it, but for me, it's the easiest one to use as well. It takes a little bit of practice, but once I got it, it's definitely the easiest one because I think the flexibility of the brush, really nice. As you know, I love the Chanel eyeliners, so if I was going to recommend any two, the Noir Intense goes really well with the Tom Ford eyeliner. And then in the waterline, if I'm not ever sure of what to put in there, this always comes in handy, and it goes with so many eyeshadows. It's Brun Agape. It's a really pretty warm brownish shade with some shimmer to it, so I think that's why it's really especially beautiful in the waterline. And then for mascara, the Chantecaille mascara is so pretty. It's one of those mascaras that you can build up, and if you've seen me put mascara on videos, I will go in for like 5 minutes with the mascara and just build and build and build, and this one doesn't clump, it doesn't flake, it doesn't smudge. It doesn't do all of those things that can frustrate me with mascara, and it looks beautiful the whole way through. So you know how some mascaras will change based on how long you've had it? This one is very consistent in the way it applies and wears throughout its life. Then we've got a couple of lipsticks. I chose two because one is a traditional lipstick and the other one, well, you know, I've been talking about this one nonstop. It's the Chanel Le Rouge Duo, specifically in Endless Pink. I have it on now. I just love this color because it's natural, but it's warm. It's one of those things that just pulls things together. It's one of those shades that I'll put on when I'm not sure what else to put on. It looks great as a no makeup. It looks great with more intense looks. It's just such a beautiful product and not at all like any liquid lipstick I've tried before. I almost don't want to put it in that category because my perception of liquid lipsticks is not a great one, but that is such a beautiful product and looks great all day long. My next lipstick is also one that's a really unique color, because usually if I purchase something that has a little bit of warmth in it, it will still look cool on me just because my skin tone is so warm. But this one actually looks warm on my skin, and I love it just for every day. It's a very luxurious everyday lipstick. It's by Hermès. It is in the shade 21. So if you've seen me wear this, it looks very similar to this, but still a bit warmer. I just think it looks so pretty every time I apply it. Formula is beautiful, hydrating. It looks pretty on. It just gives me that healthy glow. This last item is my favorite everyday palette. So much so that I do use it every day, and now I cannot find it. So I'm gonna put a little image of it here. It is the Hourglass Trio, the new one that came out. It's the sheer color trio. I have been so enjoying that for daily quick makeup. The bronzer is a little bit light for me, but it's enough to just kind of get this exterior a little bit deeper than the rest of my face. And then the blush, I can apply on top of this area right here without it disturbing any foundation or concealer, which is really hard to find with a cream blush. And that's it for my Luxury Beauty 2020 favorites. I'd love to know what you loved in 2020 so that I can try them in 2021. If you're interested in seeing any of these products in action, I will be posting the Get Ready With Me tomorrow. So look for that tomorrow in case you're interested. But that's it for today's video. So please take care of each other, stay well. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.